What's up, YouTube? This is the 82 and old podcast. Continuing on the 75 anniversary team greatest players, we're looking at Hakeem Olajuwon. Now, Hakeem Olajuwon was born in Nigeria. He was born January 21st, 1963 in Lagos. And he's one of the first great international players. So, like I said, he was born in a working class Yabora owner's business in Lagos, Nigeria. He was the third of 8 children, and he credits his parents with installing virtues and hard working and discipline into him. During his youth, he wanted to be a soccer goalkeeper because where he was growing up, soccer was much more popular than basketball. And if you ever watched Hakeem Olajuwon in his prime, you saw he had really great footwork and balance for a 7-footer. And that's because of his soccer playing days. And he just used it on the basketball court. And he didn't play basketball until the age of 15 in high school. He entered a local tournament, which was, he went to high school at a place called the Muslim Teachers College in Lagos. That's where he entered the tournament at. And he just fell in love with the game right away after he dunked. And right away he said basketball is something he wants to do. And he just immediately hit it off with the game, and he became obsessed with it. Now, he immigrated from Nigeria to play basketball because there were scouts looking for foreign talent. And he goes to the University of Houston under the coach Guy Lewis. And he wasn't highly recruited, obviously because of where he's from. At the time, there wasn't a lot of international players, And he didn't even know English when he came over here very well. He would take English classes at his university to get better. And he would actually, this is kind of crazy how this works out. When he played at Houston, he played with his future teammate, Clyde Drexler. And they had a pretty great collegiate career. And after the 83-84 season, Olajuwon, well, I should go back. I'm skipping a very important detail. So, in the 1983 NCAA tournament, Patrick Ewing, who was leading Georgetown, was matched up with Hakeem Olajuwon. And Olajuwon won. And this would start their future rivalry. And this is something that kind of gets forgotten. Sometimes people look at the Magic Johnson, Larry Bird rivalry, but they forget about other good ones like Hakeem Olajuwon and Patrick Ewing. But anyways, moving on. After the 83-84 season, Olajuwon debated on whether or not he was going to stay in college, and he wanted to go to the draft. And at the time, before the NBA draft lottery was introduced in 85, the first pick was awarded by the coin flip. Olajuwon recalled, I really believed that Houston was going to win the coin flip and pick up the first draft choice. And Portland would get the first draft pick. And they took Sam Bowie. And the 84 draft class is definitely one of the best draft classes of all time. They had Michael Jordan, John Stockton, Charles Barkley. So, this is loaded, man. Think about Houston picking Olajuwon. They could have had Charles Barkley. They could have had John Stockton, Michael Jordan. But they went with Hakeem Olajuwon. And this team already had a big in Ralph Sampson. Ralph Sampson was a 7'4" center. So their plan was to build a twin towers, so to speak. And this worked good because Sam Bowie was injury prone and never really did much in the NBA. But anyways, he goes to the Rockets, and he has an immediate success in his rookie season. He improved the wins from 29 to 53. And he improved the wins from 29 to 53 in 83-84 to 48 to 34 in 84-85. Now, he did win Rookie of the Year. He teamed up with the Rookie of the Year, Ralph Sampson. And this was supposed to be the team of the future. And as we all know, Ralph Sampson would later get a bunch of injuries that ruined his career. And Hakeem Olajuwon didn't win Rookie of the Year. That would go to Michael Jordan. But for the 84-85 season, like I said, they went 48 and 34, losing to the Jazz. 85-86 is where it gets interesting because the team would go 51 and 31, and they would make it to the finals. And they upset the Los Angeles Lakers in the Western Conference Finals. The Lakers were supposed to be the team to go to the finals. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar only averaged 6 rebounds in that series. Hakeem Olajuwon averaged 11. So they go to the finals, and they're matched up against the Celtics. And they made it pretty competitive, I gotta say. The Celtics do end up winning in 6, but Hakeem, he put up 24 points and 11 rebounds per game. And he did everything he could. And unfortunately, the team would start falling apart after this. In 87, they only win 42 games. In 88, they only win 46 games, losing to Dallas. And in 89, they win 40 games, losing to Seattle in the first round. So all these first round exits, are starting to pile up. 89-90 season, they win 40 games and lose in the first round to the Lakers. So he's starting to get frustrated with the Rockets. In 91, they go 52 and 30, which is better, but they lose to the Lakers in the first round. So, like I said, this is around the time they start getting frustrated. Hakeem Olajuwon starts getting frustrated. And a lot of people don't know this today, but he started even demanding trades. And a lot of people don't know that because they thought he was so loyal to the Rockets organization. And a lot of this has to do with the coaching that he was on. So the coaching of those early 90s Rockets, he wanted Hakeem Olajuwon to be like a second option. What I mean by this is he wanted to play outside in, like have the guard shoot the ball, and Hakeem is just there to rebound, and put in putbacks. And his name was Don Chaney. He wasn't a very good coach. And this is why you don't see Hakeem's numbers being as good as they later were. What I mean by that is those first years, 84-85 to around 90-91, his numbers were usually like 22 points per game, 23, versus later after Don Chaney was gone and they started making Hakeem the number one option. In 92-93, put up 26. 94, he put up 27. 95, he put up 27. So you see what I'm saying? His scoring would start to go up. And during this time, he would become Muslim. Now, he was raised Muslim, but he never really practiced. And he would start to really practice his religion. And he became more mellow. Before, he was kind of hot-headed. He got a lot of technicals. Now he became very, very mellow. And he won Defensive Player of the Year in 93 and 94. So, getting back to where we're at, 91, 92, this is when this starts changing. They get rid of Don Chaney, and they bring over Rudy Tomjanovich for the 92-93 season. And he was a former Houston Rockets player himself, and he's the one who decided to let Hakeem just kind of do his thing. And at the time, Hakeem Olajuwon was 30 years old. And it wasn't looking like the championship window was failing because they lost in 7 games to the Seattle Supersonics in '93. So this is starting to look like Hakeem's championship window is closing, especially with the Bulls and all their championships they're winning and how stacked the Western Conference is back then with the Jazz, the Sonics, Suns. It was starting to look like they're not going to get it. Now in the '94 season, they would go 58-24. Like I said, he'd win Defensive Player of the Year. And they'd defeat the Portland Trailblazers in the first round, defeat the Phoenix Suns in the second round in 7 games, and they would defeat the Utah Jazz in the Western Conference Finals. Then they were matched up in the finals with the New York Knicks. And if you remember, I told you about the rivalry with Patrick Ewing, then you know how momentous this is. So this is the first year with Michael Jordan gone. So right after Jordan retired, it was kind of just a game of wondering who was going to make it to the finals next. So it ends up being Hakeem Olajuwon and the Rockets and Patrick Ewing and the Knicks. And this is a classic series. And I'm sure a lot of people remember this in the NBA Finals. I think it was I want to say Game 5. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong on this. It was either Game 5 or Game 6. But anyways, the OJ case was going on during this time. And we all remember that famous helicopter following him. So during the middle of this NBA game, they showed the NBA game, but down at the bottom of the screen they had a footage, not really footage, but live feed of OJ and the Bronco driving off. Shows you how crazy those times were. But this series goes down to 7 games. And in Game 7, the Houston Rockets win 90-84. And a lot of this was due to the Rockets' great defense. John Starks went 2 for 18. And just think about that. If he would have made just 3 of those shots, been 5 for 18, they probably would have won a championship. So, shows you how close they were. And so, going into the 95 season, the Houston Rockets didn't quite have the same level of success in 94 in terms of their record. Now, they would finish the year with 47-35. Although they didn't start out the best, it was more towards the end of the season where they had a pretty good playoff run, or a pretty good run that would get them that record. So it was February 14th, towards the end of the season, they would trade Otis Thorpe and a first-round draft pick for Clyde Drexler, his old teammate from Houston. So they go into the playoffs, and they're the 6th seed, and they're the lowest seed to ever win a championship. They win the first round against the Utah Jazz, who are a 60-win team. And the second round, they come back from being down 3-1 and beat the Phoenix Suns, who were a really good team at the time. They were a 59-win team, and many people thought they were going to win that year. Then they go to the the Western Conference Finals, where they're matched up against the San Antonio Spurs, who have David Robinson, who's the MVP of the league. And this infuriated Olajuwon because he thought he deserved to be MVP of the league. And he proved he was, because he put up 35 points per game, 12.5 rebounds per game, 5.0 assists per game, 1.3 steals per game, 4.2 blocks per game on 56% shooting, while holding David Robinson to 44% shooting. He embarrassed Olajuwon, defeating him in 6 games. Now, go to the finals, they're matched up with the Orlando Magic, who have Shaquille O'Neal and Penny Hardaway. And believe it or not, the Magic were actually the favorites. And it didn't matter because they swept the Orlando Magic in 4-0. And this, in my opinion, is the toughest playoff run in NBA history. But they defeat Shaquille O'Neal in 4 games. Charles Barkley, David Robinson, Karl Malone, and John Stockton. So that's very underrated. And Rudy Tomjanovich, the coach, after they won the trophy, he said, "Don't ever underestimate the heart of a champion." And that's true. So Clyde Drexler gets his first championship, and Hakeem Olajuwon gets his second. Now, unfortunately, this team would start to fall apart after that. In 96, they'd only win 48 games, losing the second round. 97, they tried to get another ring by getting Charles Barkley. So it was Charles Barkley, Clyde Drexler, and Hakeem Olajuwon. But they would lose in 6 games in the Western Conference Finals against the Utah Jazz. Now, in the 98 season, they would lose against the Utah Jazz again, only winning 41 games that year. In 98-99, they would get Scottie Pippen. So their big three now became Scottie Pippen, Charles Barkley, and Hakeem Olajuwon. And they'd go 31-19, which is good because of the lockout, but they would lose in the first round. Now, after this, they would only win 34 games in the 2000 season. And in the 2000-2001 season, they would win 45 games, but they wouldn't make the playoffs because of how deep the Western Conference was back then. So at this time, Hakeem Olajuwon was 38. His window was closed. But that would be his last year in Houston because in the 01-02 season, they would trade him to the Toronto Raptors, which is one of the dumbest trades in history. You think after playing all those years and showing all his loyalty to Houston, they would have kept him, but it didn't mean anything to them. They traded him to the Raptors for a draft pick, if I remember right. I don't remember who was drafted, but he didn't do anything in Toronto, and he would put up like 7 points per game, and that was it. And he retired. He was 39 years old at that time, and he's the greatest player of the 90s, not named Jordan. And let's talk about his resume. He's a 12-time All-Star, 2-time rebound champion, 3-time block champion, 2-time NBA champion, 12-time All-NBA, 9-time All-Defense, 85 All-Rookie, 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, 2-time Finals MVP, and he was the 1994 MVP, Finals MVP. He was a 2-time Finals MVP and a 94 MVP. So I'd rank him as, I'd say, probably the 11th best player on the 75 list. And to me, he's the greatest center after Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He had such great footwork, was a great defender. You could make an argument that he's one of the greatest post defenders of all time. And you got to really watch this guy from around 92 to 95 to see how great his post moves were. He had the famous dream shake. Go look that up if you don't know what it is. And that's what I love about him. So let me know what you think about Hakeem Olajuwon. Is he the greatest center of all time? And feel free to comment anything else you have in mind. And thanks for watching.